Welcome back. You're watching The Lunch onto a Bloomberg UTV exclusive. Now, Bharti is probably the one telecom company that can claim to remain unscathed from the ruins of the telecom sector and the hyper competitiveness and, of course, all the news around the 2G scam. But speaking to Bloomberg UTV's Kumarti Banerjee, Bharti CEO for South Asia, Sanjay Kapoor, spoke about the 3G and 4G opportunity, the company's capex plans, and whether at all the Indian telecom market had already saturated. Does rural India still hold enough potential? Well, those are questions Kumar asked him.
India is truly divided between urban and rural, and when you really look at the rural part of the country, it's still grossly underserved. With less than 35% penetration, I believe there is still a lot of ground to be covered on share voice services to be provided to the rural customer and connectivity to be provided to the rural customer. So that's one end of the growth. The other unserved market completely in our country is actually connectivity to the internet and the broadband services. We all know that India is where probably voice was in 1994, less than 1% penetrated, and that segment can only go northwards. So no matter which technology you bring in to serve the customer, I think that story is just begun. And if we are to go by the estimates and the experience of rest of the world, the way data explosions happening, I think there are going to be very interesting times ahead. And therefore, I think the Indian story is still very much on top of the charts.
Can you give us some kind of an update on your 3G rollout, how far it has moved? Who are the customers who are switching to 3G?
You know, first and foremost, for any part of the world, to develop an ecosystem for any technology takes a bit of while. I think the moment large operators like us enter the market, the speed up happens on building of that ecosystem, and therefore more handsets, more content, more application comes to the table, and also more access comes on the table. I think in the initial stage we've rolled out all the circles for which we had the licenses. We are trying to cover all the places where we've seen a lot of traction on edge services in the recent past, and we are seeing that the demand on edge has proliferated down to the C category and D category towns as well, and therefore concentration is to provide great access and great customer experience. Our concentration is on that. I think initial stage to say go and do a corporate bombing everywhere in the country is not the right strategy. You need to just make sure that the ecosystem develops and the customer experience improves, and that's when you catch up on more and more coverage.
What percentage of your high value customers would have shifted to 3G?
You know, this is slightly comparative in nature. I don't think I will give it away, but I would suggest that Bharti Airtel, given its revenue market share, would have a disproportionate share of the 3G handsets and devices in the Indian marketplace.
You know, what is the difference between the ARPUs of a 2G customer and a 3G customer?
Very early days, Kumar. I would not like to jump and make any conclusions, but obviously customers who use 3G services at the higher end are fairly accretive on the ARPUs. Their propensity to consume data is tremendous. Initially, to begin with, they might be sampling data, but as you catch on to data, the world experience tells us that it just bursts through the seams.
Right. Quarter or last year or so, much of the dent on the revenues has been on account of the rebranding exercise, the forex losses, and also the spectrum charges. Moving ahead, what are the key challenges ahead for Bharti?
We have said that when we talk about expenses in future, we do give a forecast on our capex expenses, and we believe in the coming year without the tower cores we should be spending about $1.5 billion, around that ballpark, on capex for India and South Asia.
Would it also include the one-time spectrum fees which is anticipated widely?
You know, I would not like to give you a breakup of that, but obviously the primary expenses will be on the network. Network always consumes you know, the highest part of the capex spend, and it includes a mix of radio and the backhaul capabilities. As you provide for more and more data, you have to make sure your backhaul is robust, and also the expenses that you make on providing capacities on both on 2G in particular, and more coverage on 3G. So that's where the expense mainly goes on.
Will a part of the capex also go into smaller acquisitions or something, or is it off the radar?
There is nothing that I can talk about at the moment.
There are talks that you might like to buy the spectrum from Qualcomm, and the Qualcomm global CMD has also made a comment. Is that on the anvil or something?
These are all speculations which keep happening, and we never comment on such like speculations. However, everybody knows that the broadband story in this country has just begun. When you look at the total deficit of spectrum across the globe from a country to another country, it ranges from between 200 megahertz to 500 megahertz. So if the question is to say, would Bharti Airtel and any broadband serious operator in the market need more spectrum? Answer is yes. We will need more spectrum to stitch a very robust broadband story going forward. How it will come is a matter of time.
How long before we see the Bharti rolling out its BWA operations?
I think we have to begin with license for 4 places, and a while back there was a dilemma between WiMAX versus LTE. I think with our GTI endeavor that we announced in Barcelona, we've made it pretty clear that we are now moving ahead with LTE TDD as a technology option. As I speak with you, evaluations are going on, and when can we bring the services to the customers, but we've said that towards the end of this fiscal we should be able to bring in the 4G services to the Indian customers.
Coming back to your DTH business, can you give us some update on your DTH business and the telemedia services?
Great story on DTH, I must say. Coming from behind as a 5th operator, today incrementally we add almost every 4th customer that becomes a DTH customer in this country. In March we were handling close to about 5.6 million customers, and coming from behind as a 5th operator, I think we are today rated amongst the top 1 or 2 players in this market. I think that business has done a great start for us, and we couldn't have asked for anything better.
Sanjay, you are sitting on huge cash flows. The industry as such has been facing some kind of a problem with regards financing. I'm sure your company does not face that, but are there really some problems like with regards banking finance?
Look, I would leave each company to comment on what their treasury strategy is and what their borrowing strategy is, but all I can say is that fundamentals of any financing would depend on the fundamental survival and sustenance of an industry. The fact of the matter is that in a country like ours, other than the top 1 or 2 players, everybody is operating at price points where even their costs are not covered. So this is not a sustainable model. I mean, if you continue to have a model where you continue to bleed as an industry, of course, funding such a business case and sustainability will be a question mark.
That's a view coming in from Bharti Airtel, and that stock up about 1/4%. But let's move away from the stock markets and all the corporate news and get you the big picture. Vikram Oza joins us for our regular update on that. Vikram.